Most business owners don't realize they're failing until the money suddenly disappears. That's what makes this so dangerous. The customers are still buying. Sales still look strong. Revenue is growing every month. From the outside, everything looks successful. But behind the scenes, the business is quietly starving to death. And the worst part, the owner usually thinks they're winning right before everything collapses. Because nobody taught them the difference between revenue, gross profit, and net profit. So they chase the biggest number, without realizing it's often the most misleading one. At 11:47 p.m., Marco was sitting on the floor of his sneaker store, surrounded by shipping boxes and empty energy drinks. His back hurt, his phone battery was dying, and his Shopify notifications wouldn't stop going off. Sale, sale, sale. Honestly, it felt amazing. 6 months earlier, Marco was struggling to get even 3 orders a day. Now he was shipping products across the country: California, Texas, Florida, New York. Every notification felt like proof he was finally becoming successful. Then he checked the dashboard again. $68,240 in revenue. 1 month. Marco just stared at the number. That was more money than he'd ever seen connected to his name before. His heart started racing. This was it, the breakthrough, the moment all the stress finally paid off. He immediately started thinking bigger: better apartment, hire employees, expand inventory, maybe even open a second location someday. Because in Marco's mind, high revenue meant the business was healthy. That assumption almost destroyed him. 3 weeks later, Marco was sitting alone in the back office after closing time. He opened his business banking app and refreshed the balance, then refreshed it again. $2,183 left. That was all. His stomach dropped. How does a business make over $68,000 and still end up nearly broke? That question hit him like a punch to the chest. And here's the scary part. A huge percentage of small business owners in America are asking themselves that exact same question right now. Because revenue feels like success, but revenue can lie to you. This is where everything changes. Marco went home that night and started digging through every expense for the first time. Inventory costs, shipping fees, returns, TikTok ads, payroll, packaging, software subscriptions, rent, card processing fees. The money was leaking everywhere, tiny leaks, but together they were killing the business. Marco kept refreshing the numbers, hoping they would somehow look different. They didn't. And then he noticed something terrifying. The business was growing, but his stress was growing faster. More orders created more problems. More inventory pressure, more payroll pressure, more cash flow pressure. He thought growth would make life easier. Instead, it felt like the business was eating him alive. That's when Marco called Victor. Victor owned a boring warehouse supply company outside Chicago. No flashy branding, no viral marketing, no entrepreneur lifestyle nonsense online. But Victor had quietly built a multi-million-dollar business over 19 years. Marco expected some complicated business advice. Victor asked one question: How much do you keep after every sale? Marco froze because he knew his revenue instantly, but profit, not really. Victor grabbed a napkin and drew 3 boxes. Revenue, he said, drawing the biggest box, is all the money coming in. Then he crossed half of it out. Gross profit is what's left after paying for the product. Then he crossed out most of the remaining amount. And net profit, he said, is what survives after the business finishes attacking you. That line stayed in Marco's head because suddenly he saw the truth. Revenue was feeding his ego. Net profit was feeding the business. Completely different things. Victor broke down Marco's amazing month. $68,240 in revenue. Sounded impressive, but inventory alone cost him nearly $41,000. Now he had about $27,000 gross profit left. Then came rent, employees, ads, shipping, returns, software, insurance, taxes. At the end of the month, Marco kept around $3,400. That was it. After all that stress, all those late nights, all those sales, he kept less than 5%. And suddenly, everything made sense. Why he constantly felt anxious, why growth never felt financially safe, why did the business always need more cash? It was like trying to fill a bathtub with the drain open. No matter how much water entered, most of it escaped. If you run a business, you've probably felt this before. The confusion of seeing sales rise while your actual life barely improves. The pressure of working nonstop, but never feeling ahead. The quiet fear that maybe the business looks healthier than it really is. That feeling is more common than people admit. especially now. Costs are rising everywhere in America. Ads cost more. Shipping costs more. Rent costs more. Customers spend more carefully. So understanding these numbers is no longer optional. It's survival. Here's the simple breakdown. Revenue is total sales. Revenue equals total sales. Gross profit is what remains after paying for the product itself. Gross profit equals revenue minus cost of goods sold. Net profit is what remains after every expense in the business gets paid. Net profit equals revenue minus all expenses. Simple example. You make $100,000 in revenue. Your products cost $60,000. Now you have $40,000 gross profit. But after payroll, rent, software, taxes, ads, refunds, shipping, and operations, maybe only $8,000 survives. That's net profit. That's the real health score of the business. And this is what most beginners misunderstand. A business can have huge revenue and still quietly die from weak net profit. This is why some businesses suddenly disappear after going viral. People think more sales automatically solve business problems. Sometimes more sales multiply them. More customers can create more refunds, more staff problems, more inventory risk, more operational chaos. That sounds backwards. But it explains why some small, boring businesses quietly make more money than companies doing 10 times the revenue, because they protect profit, not ego. And honestly, that realization changes the way you look at every business forever. So tonight, don't just check your sales. Check what actually stayed after everything got paid. That number tells the truth. And I'm curious, what number do you personally pay the most attention to right now? Revenue, gross profit, or net profit? Next video, we're breaking down the dangerous reason some businesses grow faster after raising prices and losing customers. That sounds crazy at first, until you see what's really happening behind the numbers. See you in the next one.